mean, Did I not complete the level? So unless you have the manual for this game, how are you supposed to know how the bonus panels work? Some of them are pretty straightforward, like the Sonic one giving you a 1-up and the ring giving you 10 rings, but then you have Robotnik, which just doesn't do anything? There's an exclamation point one that sends us to a special stage, but aside from that one, how do we know how to get these? Is it just random? In this version of the game, the Chaos Emeralds are hidden throughout the levels, and you would have no idea of where to go or what to do to find them. Like the original Sonic the Hedgehog, there are only 6 Chaos Emeralds, and there are 6 zones to find them in, 1 per zone. But each zone contains 2 acts, not counting the 3rd act reserved for bosses, and you have no idea what act each emerald is located in. And it's especially weird since this game does have special stages, which, like the original, you can access by passing a goalpost with 50 rings, but their purpose is to get lives. But if you already had special stages, why not put the emeralds here instead of just randomly out in the open? I know it's the first boss in the 8-bit version of the very first game, but this has to be one of the worst boss fights in the series. It's just the Eggmobile. It floats around for a little bit, slowly comes down, and then charges at you. There's literally no gimmick to this one. An auto-scroller in a Sonic game? What an absolutely terrible idea. I hope no one tries this concept again 26 years later. This one is a good example of how would you know you can do this to find the Chaos Emerald. Unless you duck earlier in the level, you would never see it, so you wouldn't know it was there, and it's unlikely you'd be willing to ride the log down the waterfall for long enough to see that you can jump to a platform on the left to get it. Also, I just realized that all the Chaos Emeralds are the same color in this game. Ugh, Jungle Zone Act 2. This one sucks. It's a vertical level, which by itself isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's the fact that once the screen reaches a certain position, everything below you is a bottomless pit. It doesn't matter if you were clearly standing on something beforehand and should logically be able to land on it. If you off-screen it, the game now considers it a death plane. Oh, also this shit is just cruel. You've probably died a couple times in this stage already, so seeing a 1-up there is very enticing. So much so that you're probably blind to the spring they hid behind it, which will undoubtedly lead to another death, and 1-ups don't respawn in this game. And I'm not done bitching about Jungle Zone, by the way, because its boss is incredibly annoying. You're on this dipping vine that Eggman drops cannonballs on, which rock back and forth, meaning you have to hit him while avoiding getting hit. And that sounds easy, but the cannonball moves at a faster pace than he does, meaning you have to either time when to jump in order to hit Robotnik when he's coming down to drop another cannonball and get hit by the finicky fucking hitbox, or try to use the sides of the vine to hit him when he's in the middle and risk getting hit by the cannonball already on the vine. Sometimes there can briefly be 2 cannonballs on the vine, which is really inconvenient because at that point one will be going at the regular speed while the other is slowing down, and after you defeat Eggman, you can still get hit by the ball if it hasn't despawned. Ugh, Labyrinth Zone. Oh, that's great. Hardly any invincibility frames, huh? Yeah, so this Chaos Emerald sucks too. You basically have one shot at it because it's inside a set of spikes that you can only get while having an invincibility active, and while there's a little room for error, even when done perfectly, the invincibility ends like a second or 2 later. This sucks too. In Act 3, there's a 1-up at the end of a hallway riddled with spikes, and something I forgot to mention about boss acts in this game is that there are no rings in them, meaning you either have to enter a boss act with a shield from a previous act, or never get hit. Meaning that in order to get this 1-up, you have to maneuver your jumps in water perfectly, get the 1-up, traverse the spikes again in reverse, and then take on the boss. I understand risk versus reward, but the risk heavily outweighs the reward here, because even if you do get the 1-up, if you lose a life on the way back or during the boss fight, you may as well not have even tried, because like I said, 1-ups don't respawn, so you basically have one chance to keep it after you collect it. And it's made worse by the fact that the last jump you have to make coming out is next to impossible, because you'll always jump as tall as the spikes are, meaning you have to land on the platform on the way down, but because you're in water, your momentum probably won't allow you to reach it anyway, meaning that this isn't risk versus reward, this is a trap. So I could be wrong, and please someone correct me if I am, but I do believe that Scrap Brain Zone Act 3 only has 99 rings, meaning that you are so close to being able to get 2 extra lives in this level, but they specifically made it so you are just 1 ring short, and if I'm right, that's a real shithead move. A crap brain move, if you will. Sky-based Zone as it stands is already a tough level, what with unrelenting cannons placed in front of lightning rods that can knock you into a bottomless pit if mistimed even once, but this part is the worst, with an Orbonaut placed right in front of the next platform you need to jump to. Now, this Orbonaut is an uni-uni, meaning that they're not the kind that shoot out their spikes, so I have to either time my jump perfectly, intentionally take damage and risk getting hit by the lightning or getting knocked off the level, or wait until the slow bastard makes its way enough to the left to let me jump freely. And when I say slow, I mean slow. I've had paint dry faster than this badnik moves. Skybase's Chaos Emerald is also awful because you have to leap of faith onto a floating platform to the left of the start of Act 2, which you would have no way of knowing was there. While the final boss is tough because the timing of his attacks just seems really awkward, an even sillier issue with it is that I can just phase into Robotnik's protective tube and just wail on him from the inside. That is, of course, until he shoots out his laser ball at me, which will hit me no matter where I am. Sound produce? I didn't know there were vegetables in this game. So, fun fact about 8-Bit Sonic 2, it was Tails' first appearance in the series, even before the 16-bit counterpart, and the reason that's funny to me is because despite being on the title screen and the title cards of each zone, Tails isn't in this game. He gets captured by Robotnik and sends a letter to Sonic to come rescue him. Which, by the way, contradicts the opening cutscene of this game, which shows Sonic seeing Tails get kidnapped. So, much like the last game, the Chaos Emeralds are found within the levels, and they're all found in each zone's second act, which is a step up. At least this time, I know not to bother searching in Act 1. But we still run into the issue of not really knowing where to check, and this first emerald isn't a good start since you essentially have one shot to jump off the minecart and reach the top, but how would you know to do that? Why would you save us? We were going to die, isn't that what you want? Okay, scratch that. This is one of the worst bosses. Literally all I have to do is jump in place. Also, fun fact, these bosses are called Master Robots, not to be confused with Mega Man's Robot Masters. Totally different. Collecting the Emerald in Sky High Zone is one of the fucking dumbest things I've ever had to do in a video game. So you have to bounce off certain cloud platforms, land on other cloud platforms, but you have to make sure they're the right ones because most of the clouds have no collision and they do not look different at all. How are you supposed to know which you can land on and which you'll fall through? Well, if you look closely, you'll see that the ones you can land on have extra puffs in the middle. Oh! And to add insult to injury, you have to bounce off one of the clouds and leap of faith onto the next platform you need to land on. There's challenge, and then there's basically not wanting me to collect this thing. Aqua Lake Zone Act 2 is ass. For starters, it's a water level, and while not quite as infuriating as Labyrinth Zone, this has its own set of problems in the form of using these bubbles to climb vertical sections, which isn't really a problem until this part of the stage, where you have to maneuver your way into not getting hit by the arrows or the lobsters. Then, just when you think you're safe, you have to book it to the left and keep your bubble while raising through the platforms with spikes on the ceiling that you would have thought you could just jump to, but nope, you need the bubble. On top of that, there are these tunnels that move you really quickly, forcing you to make split-second decisions on where to go. Now, normally that's fine since you'll still be put on a path to continue the level, but it's less fine when one of these paths leads to the emerald, which you would have no idea is coming up or how you're supposed to get it. No, see, because this is Green Hills Zone with an S. Totally different. So, something I hadn't mentioned until this point is that slopes that turn into ramps are really weird and different in this game. You know how in the 16-bit games you can use your character's momentum when coming down a slope and then jump off a ramp to rocket through the sky? In this game, I kept trying to do that and it never worked, but I could tell that I was supposed to be able to do that, and it turns out that you can, but only when you hold down the D-pad because the ramps are supposed to be automatic. I would have brought this up during Underground Zone, but I didn't find out how it worked until this level. Also, I forgot this until writing the script, but the background music for Green Hills Zone is You Can Do Anything, the main theme for the Japanese version of Sonic CD. Since this came first, I guess the Japanese version of Sonic CD uses a remixed version of the Green Hills Zone theme with lyrics. Weird. Act 3 sucks to navigate. Because of how little you can see on screen, it is rife with leaps of faith after every spring, all in order to even get to the Master Robot. Okay, bullshit. How would I have known I could jump through that wall to get to the next Chaos Emerald?
Okay, who put springs in the middle of a damn...
Scrambled Egg Zone is such a cool level aesthetically, but god damn is it a nightmare to navigate. Act 2 has this section with a moving platform and tubes where you have to perfectly time your jumps and what paths you take, otherwise you miss boarding the platform again and basically lose a life because it doesn't respawn while you have to chill on a bed of spikes. Crystal Egg Zone is a secret level that you can access after collecting all 6 Chaos Emeralds in this game, and your only indication of that is through the manual. Tails specifically tells Sonic in his letter that that's where he's being held and how to reach the level. But there's kind of a problem. You would have needed the manual in order to not only know that this level exists and how to get to it, but that you can only collect 5 of the Chaos Emeralds and that Mecha Sonic holds the 6th one. It's especially frustrating that it isn't even mentioned until you read the Scrambled Egg Zone portion of the manual because it's reinforced that you need 6 Chaos Emeralds before then. Also, this shit drives me up a wall when it comes to talking about these characters. The disparity in the 90s when it came to their names. The final Master Robot is called Mecha Sonic in the original Japanese manual, but they changed it to Silver Sonic in the English manuals. Then, his 16-bit counterpart, who is assumedly not the same character because their designs are significantly different, was also called Mecha Sonic, but everyone just calls him Silver Sonic anyway, even though he's never had this name? And then Mecha Sonic Mark II, everyone just calls Mecha Sonic, except for the English box for Sonic & Knuckles, which calls him Metal Sonic, except he can't possibly be Metal Sonic because that's the robot from CD! Something I've neglected to mention up until this point is that the boss acts in this game suffer from the same problem that the ones in the last game did, which is that they expect you to defeat the bosses without taking a hit, and I hadn't brought it up because, for the most part, it wasn't a problem. But for the final boss, there's not a chance in hell they thought this was fair. He shoots out floating beams at you that just follow you around, meanwhile you have to zip your way in a pipe and hit Robotnik at just the right time while avoiding the beams and the electricity he can summon, which covers the entire screen. One wrong move and you're done, and messing it up is supremely easy to do in this fight. Guys, we still have like a minute worth of credits to go. You could have made the credits theme a little longer. No, see, it's different because it's Turquoise Hill Zone. It's like the bluer version of Green Hill. I know all the levels are pretty short in this game anyway, but why do we just move on to the next act when we finish a special stage? So the Master Robots are back in this game, and the first one we face is a giant Motobug with a spring on its back, which we literally just have to spin dash into. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say a giant Motobug with a spring on its back? Let me call it by its government name. It's a giant Boingobot. Oh, I'm sorry, this boss Boingobot has a specific name? The Ladybug Boss. How did the names get worse each time? I'm sorry, but without the word act in the act number, these result screens make it read like Sonic is dead. The 4th special stage in this game is the worst because it's brutal how little time they give you to complete it. Even with an item that lets you temporarily stop time, you have to know exactly what you're doing in order to have enough time to get to where the Chaos Emerald is.
Okay, Blueprint Springs, middle of a dam.
The 5th special stage isn't much better though, because while, yeah, they start you off with the same time stop item, you have no damn clue what path to take with these pipes. You have more than enough time to get to it, but that's only if and when you know what path to take in the first place, which takes time to figure out, and it's not helped by the stupid spring that they put as you exit the pipe leading to the Chaos Emerald. Mecha Green Hill Zone. You know, people complain that Green Hill Zone is overused nowadays, but what do you mean nowadays? Every single 8-bit game I've covered so far has had a version of Green Hill Zone in it. This one has 2! Wait, is that a remix of You Can Do Anything from Sonic CD? Oh, I'm sorry, is that a remix of the theme of Green Hill Zone from Sonic 2? Which was also the 4th stage in that game, featuring a version of Green Hill Zone? Huh.
Ooh, a fresh pie? Save me a slice. That's good. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's... Alright, that's good. Okay. Alright, okay, alright. Okay, that's good. That's good! It's enough slices!
Wait. This music sounds like the boss music from the Game Gear version of Sonic 2. Which also sounds like the Japanese music for Metallic Madness from Sonic CD. Why do these 3 games all derive such specific songs from each other? Also, this boss can kiss my ass. It really doesn't seem like it's that hard, but bouncing off Eggman while hitting him will almost guarantee that you get hit by one of the Gemini Man lasers he sends out. Miles Power? Who the fuck is that? I know a Miles Prower. Fuck me. You made an 8-bit version of this shit? Why is Sonic holding onto the... tornado? Sure. Why is he holding onto the tornado's landing gear? There's no way in hell that's comfortable. Ugh, you didn't even have the decency to try and arrange the good music from Toxic Caves. And I know, this is technically Toxic Pools, fuck you. It's the same level, minus the stupid minecart garbage. But you know what they did keep consistent? The fact that the Chaos Emeralds are all blue. The Game Gear and Master System were capable of more color than that. Also, do you notice that every time the Chaos Emeralds all have the same color, it's always blue for some reason? And not, you know, green like an emerald? Okay, I know that I complained in the 16-bit version about how the bonus stages in your pinball game were more pinball, but what the hell is this? Why the hell is this? And the physics in this. Oh my god! Spin dashing is your best form of traversal, and even that makes no sense. Normally you can hold down and retain your speed so that you can go even higher on the opposite wall, but here I have to hug the wall in order to go further up it. Like, what? And speaking of the physics, god damn! You know your game sucks when the only time it resembles actual pinball is when you speed up the gameplay by 200%. What just happened? This Chaos Emerald in the machine is such a pain in the urethra to get, which deserves a sin on its own, but I was trying so hard to get it that I sooner shot Sonic into the level, causing me to soft lock in this game. No matter what I did, jump, move, it didn't matter because I was stuck, and my only option was to reset the game and do the first 2 levels all over again, all because you put the Chaos Emerald in such a difficult to reach and narrow path! Don't look at me like that, you impatient little shit. I want this to be over just as bad as you do. And it was while playing this level that I realized just why I hate this game so much. 16-bit version obviously included. If I may be frank, which I can't because that's not my name, the reason I hate this game is because in regular pinball, your objective is to score a massive number of points, similar to a retro arcade game or the endless loops that contemporary mobile games tend to have. The reason they're endless is because the point is to make your score increase, and while that scoring system was still present in this game, and hell, it was present in a lot of console games at the time and even to this day, the system was a remnant of an archaic design that incentivized competition. You wanted to get more points than other people who play the game. However, with consoles becoming the norm, the object of video games shifted to a more narrative one, where you had a clear beginning and a clear end, so score didn't really matter for these kinds of games. The objective now became, can you beat the game, as opposed to, can you beat other people who play this game? In regular pinball, there are obviously parts of the board you want to aim for because they net you more points, but more importantly, you want to keep your ball in play, meaning anything you hit is an advantage. At the end of the day, you're still getting more points even if you're not hitting the things you're aiming for. In Sonic Spinball, it's not about getting points, but about navigating Sonic to very specific parts of the board in order to collect items you need in order to proceed to the boss in order to complete the game, which is difficult to do when you have minimal influence over his control in midair. Even when you're not good at it, pinball is still fun because you can compete with yourself and see the number go up on each attempt. Sonic Spinball is frustrating because you're always at odds with the layout of the levels and trying to get Sonic to where he needs to go. Even getting Chaos Emeralds doesn't feel satisfying because that's just a part of what you're doing. Once that's done, you not only need to survive and keep your ball in play, but you need to reach and play against the level's respective boss, which is way easier said than done. While I'm by no means saying that I think pinball is luck-based, once Sonic hits something, it's kind of out of your hands. You just have to pray that you're able to catch him with the flippers and be given the opportunity to try again, and that's just not fun in an objective-based game like this. To piggyback off that rant, I had the absolute misfortune of dropping out of the boss area, and while that didn't cost me a life, thank God, when I went back into the boss area, the boss's hit points reset, meaning I basically had to do the boss all over, and I was almost done the first time. What? The fuck did I just collect? I don't care. I don't have the energy to care. Final Showdown may not be as ass as its 16-bit counterpart, which was mega ass, but it's still ass nonetheless. And you know, speaking of the 16-bit version, it's so interesting to compare these two because this one has smaller boards and less things to hit, making it more straightforward, but the controls are about 5 times worse, so it weirdly evens out. I genuinely couldn't tell you which one I think is worse, and I think that that's just a testament to how bad I think both these games are. Credit where credit is due, pun not intended, this is a pretty creative credit sequence. That notwithstanding, this is probably the worst way I've ever seen credits be presented in anything ever. Go to sleep? Why, because this game was so boring? And don't tell me what to fucking do, game. You're nowhere near decent enough to do that. No, see, cause it's different. Cause it's different, cause we're in a car in this one. Why is You Can Do Anything just a constant in the 8-bit games? It's not a bad song, I'm just so curious why we've only ever seen it in one main series game, but apparently a lot of the spin-offs at the time loved using it for some reason. I'll admit, I'm probably like one of 2 people on planet Earth that enjoys this game once I got used to the controls, but this one goes out to all my homies who don't like this game. Man, isn't it bullshit that your map is like half the screen? Like, dude, not gonna lie, it's kinda ass how you can't see more than like 3 feet ahead of you. Why is Sonic in car? He can fast more than vehicle. Why are all the levels from Sonic 1? Where's Knuckles? Sonic had a rough transition to 3D. This is just Mario Kart, but bad. I'm sorry, I just kind of enjoy this game and there's not much to say about it. Whoa, what? I got congratulationed? I just wanted footage of all the tracks. I didn't realize that beating all the Grand Prix would get me a credit sequence. Nah, see, cause like this one doesn't even have hill in the name, meaning it's very different, even though the color scheme is exactly the same. So the Chaos Emeralds, unlike the last game Sonic Chaos, are back to being found throughout the levels like Sonic 1 and 2, and we'll touch on that in a bit, but man, this first location requires chaining some springs that are really hard to hit because of the screen crunch. But as I was saying, you know how we often think about Sonic 1, CD 2, and 3 as being a tetralogy of sorts? I think that Sonic 1, 2, Chaos, and Triple Trouble are on the same boat, mostly because Triple Trouble is a direct sequel to Chaos, and Chaos borrows a lot of elements directly from Sonic 2, and it has the same quirk that the 16-bit tetralogy had in that the first 2 games had you collect Chaos Emeralds in the exact same way, in this case by finding them throughout the levels, aside from Sonic 2 only featuring them in each zone's second act and lacking special stages altogether. Chaos had you collect 100 rings, and each special stage was different, featuring its own unique gimmick. Each special stage is technically different in Triple Trouble as well, except that they alternate between 2 gameplay styles. One centered around platforming, and the other centered around collecting rings in the tornado, with the difference being in how you access the special stage being that every act, again, barring boss acts, has you break an emerald monitor while carrying 50 or more rings, kinda how like the 16-bit Sonic 2 does it with the checkpoints. My question is, what are the rules, damn it? Why do each of these games have slightly different ways of collecting the Chaos Emeralds?
Okay, who put springs in the middle of a damn...
We interrupt Sonic Triple Trouble to bring you Sonic 3. Except it's somehow the ending of both of Angel Island Zone's acts. Special Stage 3 introduces invisible platforms that only appear once you land on them, and I have no idea why they would think people's first instinct would be to land on the water tiles when they're clearly a background object everywhere else. We interrupt Triple Trouble to bring you Donkey Kong Country. Special Stage 5 blows because, to my knowledge, it's the only special stage where a single mistake can compromise your entire attempt, which is especially rough when you're playing through it the first few times, not knowing where to go or what mistakes you can make. I'm all for punishing the player for making a mistake, but I'm also for allowing them to learn from it. Usually they're allowed to try again immediately, or at least have the time to mend their mistake, but here, one wrong move can force you to have to try again on the next stage, and you don't have many attempts left. Assuming you've gotten an emerald in every act like I have, you're already almost halfway through the game, only having 7 attempts left, and that's assuming that you can find the Chaos Emerald monitor and keep at least 50 rings on you. We interrupt Meta Junglera Zone to bring you Collision Chaos Zone. You know, it's only now that I'm seeing it a second time that I realize Knuckles would never do this, especially when it happened to him. Why the f would Knuckles burn down a jungle, even if it was just to eliminate Sonic? Ice Cap Zone. Robotnik Winter is just Ice Cap Zone. So, fun fact about this boss, it's called the Giga Thomas Pen, and after learning that, I can no longer take it seriously. And that made me curious about the other bosses in this game. We have Tart Turtle, which, okay, that's a little silly, but not far-fetched as far as video games go. Marvish Apopolis Go, which more than makes up for Tart Turtle, what the hell were the sounds that just came out of my mouth? Wood Butter Rundorf, which sounds like they were setting up for a pun and gave up halfway through, and then the man himself, Giga Thomas Pen. So aside from being a semi-Labyrinth Zone clone, the thing I most dislike about Tidal Plant Zone is that they bring back the rising bubble mechanic from Aqua Lake Zone in Sonic 2, but with a vengeance. It's made especially harder because Triple Trouble didn't have a Master System release, and while the screen crunch doesn't make this too much harder, you still have to navigate your way using this bubble and won't always know what's above you, which normally isn't a problem, except for the fact that this one really lives up to the Labyrinth name, where I'm not always sure where to go, made more difficult by the fact that everything looks the same. I don't really show it here, but Tidal Plant Act 2 has this really stupid gotcha moment at the end, where you'll be super confident in continuing the stage and the floor just collapses on you out of nowhere. It's not that you can't see it coming, it's that you most likely won't because of what you've just had to do. Man, I guess I never really realized how un-Knuckles-like Knuckles is in this game. I don't think he'd ever use a mech to fight anyone, he'd just take them on with his fists. And I gotta say, this is one of the most annoying fights in the series. Not necessarily because it's difficult, not because it's easy, but because it's one of the first fights you have to defeat while constantly running, and while it's debatable whether or not that's a fun gameplay style for bosses, it's immediately worsened when you have to do it underwater where your speed is gimped. Not to mention that because of that, I constantly got hit by Knuckles' missiles. I was always able to collect a ring after that because they don't go flying, thank God, but it just got annoying to have to hit him, get a bubble, get hit, get the ring, and repeat the cycle all while underwater.
Okay, who put springs in the middle of a dam?
I hadn't thought about this until now, but if you haven't gone to a special stage, Fang kinda just comes out of nowhere in Atomic Destroyer Zone Act 3. You never see him outside of the special stage before this point. He's not in the opening cutscene, he's not on the title screen, he has no reason to be here. The last phase of the final boss sucks because you constantly need to veer left and right in order to successfully hit Robotnik. Technically, you could stay on one side, but you'll most likely get hit when Eggman comes up through the pipe, and you can't stay still when outside the pipes because you have lasers that are constantly shooting at you. And because you can't stay in one place for too long, it's likely that you'll miss attacking him when he does show up on the opposite side. It's not hard, it's just not fun. Nah, see, cause like, it's the one from the 16-bit Sonic 2, and we're all in cars, so it's not the same. Okay, I know I made the Mario Kart joke in the first Sonic Drift, but Dark Valley is just straight up Ghost Valley from Super Mario Kart. Oh my god, they even both have Valley in the name. The rubber banding in this game is wild. Like, I get it, the first game was really easy, but god damn, dude, I was in first almost this entire race, and then Amy just shoots ahead of me. Oh my god, yeah, this shit. Iron Ruin has the Mecha Vulture, which can latch onto you and slow you down, and Jesus, is that annoying. Hold on, what does that say? I know you didn't have all the space in the world, but you missed a K in there, guys. So I'm checking the manual, and I don't think there's a single time it's ever mentioned that in order to beat the game, you have to beat all 3 Chaos Grand Prix and place first in every race during the Blue GP. In the last game, you just had to end up as champion of every Grand Prix, but that's not enough in this one. You need to come in first on every track, and then beat the final race against Eggman or Sonic, depending on which character you're racing as.
Deja vu, I just been in this place before.
Why is anything relating to the word labyrinth in the context of Sonic just shit? For once, just once, I'd love to be able to say, ah yes, the good labyrinth in a Sonic game. Much like Drift though, I don't really dislike this game, but I will admit this game raises a ton of questions, primarily of which, why is Sonic so goddamn slow in this game? And man, I want to make this a video of its own where I just read through the Sonic manuals, but this game kinda needs the manual to contextualize a bunch of stuff. Sonic is slow in this game because Robotnik came to the realization that he always loses to Sonic because of his speed. So he creates a special pair of boots that look identical to Sonic's regular shoes with the explicit purpose of making him slow. And you know what? Fair game, not the weirdest plan in the world. Except, how and when would you have swapped out Sonic's shoes for the Dr. Eggman's Deluxe Speed Down boots? Yes, that is their government name. Also, it says in the manual that Sonic noticed the difference immediately, which, yeah, makes sense, but the way he found out Eggman was behind it was because the narcissistic motherfucker put his logo on the shoes. And I'm sure we're all thinking the same thing. Well, if the shoes are what are making Sonic slow, why doesn't he just take them off? Well, apparently, Eggman made the boots with the power of the Chaos Emeralds, making it so that Sonic physically cannot take them off, and how the hell does that work? So we've established that the Chaos Emeralds can do a bunch of things, but never did I think they could make shoes. And I can't believe that's why we're after the Chaos Emeralds this time around, to simply be able to make Sonic take the damn shoes off. And you might be wondering, well, okay, that's all well and good, but why the Labyrinth? How does that factor into the equation? Well, you see, this is a game where Eggman already has 6 of the Chaos Emeralds, evidenced by the fact that he used them in his time as a cobbler to make Sonic speed down boots. The Labyrinth isn't just Dr. Eggman's domain, it's the thing he's been trying to do since the very beginning. This, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, is Eggman Land. I'm not kidding! The first time we ever see Eggman Land fully realized in this series is in this isometric puzzle game. And you might also be wondering, well, where's Tails? Couldn't he help Sonic get the Chaos Emeralds back? The dumb bastard is on vacation! Yup, that's all the manual says, and presumably this game and Tails' Sky Patrol are happening concurrently, hence why Sonic isn't in that game, and man, what a raw deal for both games. I'm slowing this footage down for safety measures, but did the Speed Shoes item really have to flash these obnoxious bright lights? People have epilepsy, man. This cannon in Labyrinth of the C-Zone Act 1 is really confusing because normally it shoots you in the direction of the rest of the stage, but it also shoots you to the end of the stage where the goal door is. It'll only do that though when you shoot Sonic into another cannon and then back into the first one. Labyrinth of the C-Zone Act 2 is the first time we see something really stupid that this game does. It has doors that can lead to entirely different doors than the one you entered from. By that I mean that when you enter a door, you get teleported to another door somewhere else in the stage, and that by itself is fine, it makes sense. But sometimes when you go back through the same door, you wind up in a totally different part of the stage, not the one where you originally entered. And while this level is the smallest offender in terms of this mechanic, it's one that gets way worse in future levels. Oh, Labyrinth of the C-Zone Act 3. This one has a bonus door that we've never seen before or will ever see again, and the only way you'll know how to access it is if you beat the game, which normally is fine. It incentivizes replayability, but in this case, it's really stupid, because this bonus door has one of the Chaos Emeralds. At least, I think it does, because the manual doesn't say anything about a Chaos Emerald being there, nor can you actually collect one in the bonus stage. But without getting to the bonus stage, you don't get the good ending of this game, which, again, the manual says nothing about. In fact, the manual is wrong, because it says that there are 2 special doors, which is incorrect, because the only one that exists is in this act. And okay, at least it does tell you that you might receive a hint on how to access this door if you beat the game, so what's the hint? 1 and 2 and right key. In Zone 2-3, Fuji 1 go. The f*** does that mean? Like, yes, I understand what it is I'm supposed to do, but what kind of a hint is this? For starters, we collect keys in this game in order to complete stages, so calling right on the D-pad the right key would make someone think that they need to get a key to the right of a stage. Also, 1 and 2 and right key is a singular concept because of the use of an exclamation point. It seems entirely separate from in Zone 2-3 Fuji 1 go, and I think that explains why the manual says there are 2 bonus stage doors. They must have thought these were 2 separate hints too. Also, even assuming that you somehow understood that you needed to press 1 and 2 and right on the D-pad in Zone 2-3, how would you know where to do that? The only unique thing in this level are the enemies and the cannon, so you would guess the cannon and you'd be right, but you would also need to know to hold these buttons before Sonic gets shot out. Also, I am begging someone, for the love of God, to tell me what the f*** Fuji 1 go means, because I am stumped. Initially, I assumed that it was a pseudonym for the developer who left the hint, but then, as I scoured through the credits, that's not a name I found anywhere. Fuji and go have a bunch of different meanings in Japanese depending on how you write them, so I have no idea how any English speaker is supposed to interpret this. Especially because, due to the 2 separate screens and the separation by way of exclamation point, it seems like the game is telling you that in Zone 2-3 you're supposed to Fuji 1 go, but I don't know what the f*** that means! Did you know that if you pause in this game that you can scroll around and see the entirety of the map? Which isn't very useful, considering that all on-screen objects get despawned, so I can't even see where the keys are anyway. It's especially useless in this level because I have no way of knowing where the teleporters lead until I use them. Labyrinth of the Factory Zone Act 3 has the stupidest key to collect in my opinion, because remember the pause mechanic I literally just talked about? Unless you know about it beforehand, you wouldn't know that it would help you find this platform all the way to the bottom left of the map, where a teleporter will take you to where one of the keys is, but by doing that, you still wouldn't know that in order to get there, you have to wait for a platform to show up to take you to said teleporter. And you most likely won't have run past the teleporter because I am convinced that the platform doesn't move unless you wait there. I was spinning around for so long trying to find the last key and a way to get to the top platform until I stopped moving and it showed up. So it'll rarely happen, but there is a non-zero chance that if you get hit and your keys fall off the stage, you have to go all the way back to where they spawned and collect them again. Usually it's not a big deal, but in the endgame where you have pretty big levels and doors that do that thing I talked about earlier, it can be a pain in the ass to collect them all again. Labyrinth of the Castle Act 3. This is the worst level in this game, and it's mostly because of the doors. While the level itself is big, navigating it sucks because I don't know where any door is going to lead me to, especially because sometimes multiple doors can lead to the same door, meaning I have to trial and error this level while trying to remember where I've been, what doors I've gone through, figure out where the keys are, and where the gold door is. And I know that all sounds like the same complaints I've had for the past levels, but this is the worst version of all those things. The only thing that could have made it worse is if I had to Fuji one go in this level. I really don't get the point of the smiley bomb dropping smaller bombs. I can just stay in the middle and they'll never hit me. It is perfect. Wonderful. No, it's not. And you want to know the difference between the endings? There are three. The first is the colors. It's orange for the good ending and blue for the bad ending, which... cool. Second is the text that you get at the end, with the bad ending tell you, but it was not perfect, and to try again, which is the equivalent of just having the words good ending on your screen despite nothing having really changed. And finally, instead of getting the hint on how to access the bonus stage, the good ending gives you the level select code, which why the f*** would I want that? I've already beaten the game to the best of my ability. What use would I get out of that other than being able to record the bad ending more easily? What? That's not how the Chaos Emeralds work. Is this where the second Sonic movie got that idea? That the Chaos Emeralds can be stored inside another emerald? Nah, no, see, it's different, because this time it looks like absolute fucking garbage. And wow, do I mean that. Sonic Blast has a really interesting history. It was developed by Aspect, the studio that worked on 8-Bit Sonic 2, Sonic Chaos, Sonic the Hedgehog's Game World, Triple Trouble, and Tails Adventure. And every single one of those games not only looks and sounds better than this game, but all of them came out before this one, so they absolutely should have known better by this point. Not to mention, they kinda make it seem like this game has something to do with Traveler's Tales' Sonic 3D Blast, because the sprites as well as the box art are based off of the pre-rendered 3D models used in that game, but in Japan, this was known as G-Sonic, not just because Sonic the Hedgehog is a motherfucking G, but I'm assuming because it stood for the Game Gear, which this was released on. In the West, however, it was called Sonic Blast and was released only a month after 3D Blast, so I wouldn't blame anyone for assuming that this was a handheld version of that game, except for the fact that it has nothing to do with Sonic 3D Blast. They're two entirely separate games. And I did say that this game was released for the Game Gear, which is true, but over a year after its release, because the Master System was huge there, a Brazilian game company called Tectoy made a Master System port of the game, which is what I'm playing on, and it's somehow inferior to the original Game Gear version? The colors aren't as nice, and so many screens like the title screen, character select, title cards for the zones, and the results screen all retain the original Game Gear resolution. It almost makes you wonder why they even bothered. Like, the only advantage this has over the Game Gear version is that the screen crunch isn't as bad? And even that's not saying much because it's still pretty bad on account of how massive the sprites are. And it is slow! You remember how I said that the 8-bit Sonic Spinball only looked normal when viewed at 200%? The same is true for this game. I'm watching it at twice the speed and it almost looks like a Sonic game. And the way they handle Chaos Emeralds in this game. So every zone has a donut that you can find that sends you to a special stage. I call it a donut because that is not a special ring. Like Triple Trouble, you can only find one of these in every act, but like Sonic 2, only the ones in Act 2 can get you Chaos Emeralds. The ones in Act 1 just get you extra lives, and weirdly enough, both special stages in each zone's Act 1 and Act 2 are the exact same, with the only difference being what you get at the end. And if you fail it, That's it. No Chaos Emerald for you, no more chances to get it. Which, to be fair, other Aspect games did too, but you really feel it in this one since the special stages, while not difficult, aren't super generous with their rings, which sucks because the depth perception in them is skewed and can definitely throw you off. Also, the special stages themselves are also only in the original Game Gear resolution. This is a minor nitpick, big shocker, I know. But I kinda hate the sound effect for hitting Eggman in this game. Again, other Aspect games had the same issue. In some cases it was worse because you basically had no visual feedback, but for some reason it just annoys me more here. And I think it's because the graphics are so different that you would think the sound effect would be too. I just feel like it's a sound effect that should play when you've reflected off of Eggman's mech, not one that plays when you successfully hit him. Okay, I know what he's doing, but the 8-bit compression of the sprite just makes it look like he's flipping me off. So, I don't know if this is an oversight or not, but I broke a monitor with a Robotnik mark and nothing happened. Aren't I supposed to take damage or lose all my rings or something? Like a lot of the other 8-bit games, you can get different plates on the goalpost, and sometimes you can get Supersonic, which is weird because not only is Supersonic not in this game, he's never been in any of the 8-bit games before this one. Blue Marine Zone. Not a Labyrinth clone, but god damn it, it might as well be. You thought Sonic was slow before? You haven't seen shit. And Act 1 isn't even that bad. No, it's Act 2 that can piss right off. You have tubes with invisible currents that can make you restart an entire section. Vertical platforming where you'll have no idea where to find an air bubble pocket. And the one that really grinds my gears is this shit, where you have to walk through what clearly looks like a solid wall in order to advance the level. You know, if Robotnik just didn't do anything, we'd drown. Silver Castle Zone features a bunch of maze-like elements that I cannot imagine are fun to deal with on the Game Gear version. You know what? Let's actually find out, because I can just boop, zoom in, and oh no, there's no way anyone found this fun. You know, I really do not like this boss with the constantly shifting camera to show me what Eggman's about to do. This would be way cleverer if both Sonic and Eggman were on screen. Not better, just cleverer. Also, I truly hate how little feedback you have for this boss. It takes so many hits that I genuinely couldn't tell if I was doing the right thing or not. And now, it is time for one of the worst f***ing boss fights I've ever played in one of these games. If you collected all 5 Chaos Emeralds, you get to, and I use the term get to very loosely here, fight this thing, which doesn't even have the courtesy of having a proper name. They give you 99 rings in this fight, effectively giving you 10 hit points, and you're going to need them. Because despite the fact that I am playing the Master System version, you have to fight this boss in the original Game Gear resolution, meaning the screen is crunched up the ass, making it difficult for me to see where I'm landing after I jump on the platform and onto Eggman. Because landing on him isn't necessarily the hard part is landing in between his 2 drill horns, because 95% of the time, even when I do hit the cockpit, I bounce off and hit the drill horns anyway. And it doesn't help that anything and everything can damage me in this fight, giving me very little real estate for me to be safe from harm. And as if that weren't bad enough, after enough hits, the platform you need to jump off of, which can also hurt you by the way, starts moving too. Meaning that you now not only have to time where Eggman has moved to, you also need to account for where the platform you're standing on is. See, cause hold on, cause it doesn't even have Green or Hill in the name, just where Green Hill takes place. But see, cause it was made by the people who made Fatal Fury, so it's different. Okay, but real talk, this game is so good that I genuinely don't think I can even make fun of it. The most I can point out is how these stages are mostly taken directly from 16-bit Sonic 2, with music mostly from Sonic 3, and all of it is good. I can't even fault it for reusing the special stages from 16-bit Sonic 2. The rings they give you are pretty generous and give you a pretty good indication of where the rings and obstacles will show up in time for you to react. I don't know why they insist on bringing those special stages back. Oh, that's one, ding! Oh, here's another one. The first few special stages don't bother changing the color of the special stage, but they do in later ones. What's up with that? Something else about the special stages, and I can't believe that's basically all I've talked about in this one, is that the motif for getting them in this game is to again finish an act with 50 or more rings. Like a lot of the other 8-bit games, you don't collect all of the Chaos Emeralds in the special stages, but you do collect 6, and you can only get to a giant ring in Act 1, meaning you basically only have 7 opportunities to get them. If you mess up a special stage twice, that's it. You can't get all the Chaos Emeralds, which is a shame because this game doesn't just have a good ending, it has a whole extra boss level for doing so.
Okay, who put springs in the middle of a damn...
This caught me completely off guard, and I think it's amazing. But why are we fighting? Like, seriously, I tried looking in the manual to see why Knuckles had beef with us this time, and it turns out this game doesn't even have a story. God damn! Knuckles punched us so hard that we ended up in the sky, so high up in fact, that we ended up landing on the tornado. Sonic's head should have been ripped off its fucking body. Also, it's very convenient that Tails just so happened to be flying the tornado directly above where Sonic and Knuckles were fighting. It's kind of weird that Sky Chase Zone and Aero Base Zone are still technically considered Act 1 and Act 2 respectively, even though they're two completely separate zones. Very convenient that Mechasonic just so happened to come back to life with the explicit purpose of allowing us to enter Gigantic Angel Zone. Ugh, you just had to make this as authentic as possible, didn't you? You even kept the slicers annoying as hell to avoid. Special Stage 6 is a bitch. I know I said that the special stages in this game are pretty generous and have good enough draw distance for the player to react to what's coming up, but this is the exception. Gigantic Angel Zone's boss is pretty tough, not only because he drops bombs and releases scatter shots that end up covering the entire stage and you can only hit him when he dips, but sometimes he shoots the beams or drops the bombs as he's dipping, making it tricky to not get hit when it's time to hit him. And okay, technically that's not true because you can also reach him by standing on the explosion left by his bombs, but how do you stand on an explosion? Why would anyone think to do that? Something about the last Utopia boss that you're never told and that you in fact just kind of have to figure out somehow is that in order to get the last Chaos Emerald from Eggman, you have to attack the Emerald. In every other game where Robotnik has held the last Emerald, the way we get it is simply by defeating him, but here, we have to actively avoid hitting him until we get the Emerald. Which is cool, but how the hell would you figure that out if not by complete accident? Hey everyone, Char-I-5 here. Thanks so much for watching my CINEMASINS pastiche of everything wrong with 8-bit Sonic games. Now, you might notice that there are some games that I didn't include in this video, such as Tales of Sky Patrol, Tails Adventure, but that's because those are going to be reserved for another video, which will be linked here once it comes out. But I hope you guys enjoy the video. Thank you to the patrons, to the members, to everybody who has been supporting me over all this time. As always, I very much appreciate all of your support. Look at them go. My question for this video is, have you played any of these? And if so, which one is your favorite? I played all of them for the first time for the marathon that I did, and it's tough for me to say which one I like the most. Like, I like 1, 2, Chaos, and Triple Trouble a lot, but like out of those, it's tough for me to say which one I like the most because all of them have their strengths and weaknesses. It's tough to say, so let's go with, Triple Trouble. Why not? Thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you will stick around to the next video. I've got more in store. And until next time, stay safe and stay awesome. This is Char-I-5, signing off.